Alright, I wanted to sit down today and talk about the idea of Sonder, the experience of Sonder. And I think it's such an interesting topic. I mean, the definition of Sonder, at least what I understand of it, is the realization that, every single person you see, every single person you pass, everyone around you has just as complex of a life as you do. They have loved ones, they have experiences they've been through, they've lost people, they have goals, they have dreams. I mean, they're just as human as you. And I feel like oftentimes we're so inconsiderate to the fact that, everyone else around us is just as human as us. I feel like oftentimes we feel like the world revolves around us, and all these people that we're passing by, all these people that we're seeing, all these people we're talking to, they're almost just like robots in our world. And it's not true at all. Every single person is just as complex as you, if not more. And honestly, I think it's a big cause of narcissism. I think a lot of people act narcissistic because they're inconsiderate to the fact that everyone else around them is also a human. They also experience things, they also feel things. And when you act like the world revolves around you and no one else really matters, it leads to extreme narcissism. At least I noticed in myself. I'm not speaking for everyone. Once again, everyone experiences things differently, but I think it's just such a crazy idea that, it's not a crazy idea. You know what I'm talking about. But another thing that made me think of is how special just little moments with people are, especially random people. Say you're sitting in the airport, right? And you're waiting to board your flight, and this other dude's waiting to board his flight, and you guys are going separate ways, and you guys have never met before, but you sit down and you have a nice conversation with this guy for, say, an hour, maybe 2, and you get to know him a little bit, and then you part ways, and you probably never see each other again. You're going to one state, he's going back home to some other state, right? And you guys will probably never see each other again, but you now share this one little moment together. You share this one little memory together. And I just think that's so interesting. You have such complete different lives. You probably know nothing about this guy. He knows nothing about you. Complete different people. And, you might not even remember this dude's face in a couple weeks, but you'll have this memory forever, and he'll have this memory. And although you'll never see each other again, you still share something. And that happens with so many people. And I just think that's something to cherish. That's something so special. And it makes me almost want to act more kind towards people, because all these people are experiencing things, they're meeting people, they're making these memories and stuff, like I was saying, just living their lives just as complex as ours. So why would you want to be the negative to someone's life? Why would you want to have that one memory that the person has of you be negative when you could have a positive impact? And honestly, if you're negative to someone, it might impact them for maybe a week, maybe a couple weeks, maybe even a month, but at some point they'll probably forget about that, and you won't even be a memory to them. But if you compliment someone, or you make a positive impact on someone's life, or you have a nice, good conversation with someone, that's way more memorable, and they might remember that for the rest of their lives. You might have left such a good impact on that person that you will have a memory, although you know nothing about them. You might never see this person again, but they'll hold this special memory of you, the one time you complimented them, the one time you had a nice conversation with them. They'll hold that forever and remember that. And I think that's so special as well, and it almost encourages me to, be more nice to people and try to make more experiences and memories with people in a positive way and not be so negative to people. And, it's just really crazy. And that also makes me think about old friends. I'm not talking about old friends that, like you left off on bad terms, you guys aren't friends anymore, but like the friends that you just grew up and you slowly separated, Like you never had one last hangout and then we're never hanging out again or anything. You had one last hangout and you didn't plan it to be the last hangout. You just ended up never hanging out again after that. You just parted ways. And I think that's so interesting because at one point, I'll use this for example. I had a buddy about 3 years ago. We were like best friends. Like we hung out every single day, any chance we got to. I knew like everything about him. I knew his dreams, I knew his goals, the people he liked, the people he didn't like, what he's been through in life, what he's feeling. I knew so much about this kid, and he knew the same about me. We were really, really close. And then we started to grow up and we just started separating, and now it's probably been 3 years since we hung out. And although at one time I knew everything about this kid. Now I probably know absolutely nothing about him. You know, we haven't talked in a long time, and he's probably changed so much. Not in a bad way, of course. I'm sure he's doing great. I'm sure he's, you know, living an amazing life, but it's just so crazy that at one point I knew this kid so well, and in just 3 years I know absolutely nothing about him. But what's even cooler is, although we know nothing about each other, right, we still always have a special place in each other's heart. You know, I'm sure I'll never forget about him, and I mean, I can't speak for him, of course, but I'm sure he'll probably always remember me. And I think that's also really cool, you know? Like, although we know nothing about each other now, we're living 2 separate lives. We're like, don't really contact each other. We don't talk a lot, yet we still hold this such a special memory, almost like childhood nostalgia of each other. I just think that's so cool. You know, and I think that's really special. It's just an interesting thought to think about, but that's pretty much it. I just wanted to ramble.